Hi, welcome to Made with Love by Daisy. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about my knitting machine. Many of you have been messaging me on Instagram and YouTube asking me about my knitting machine and where I got it. I got it from White Tiger on Amazon. You can even contact them on Instagram. So my machine is the basic economic model. So the reason I went for that is because I had only seen videos about the knitting machine. I didn't know actually how to use it. So I thought since it's my first machine, I'll get the very basic model. So in this video, I will talk to you about the machine and all the different tools and accessories that come along with the machine. So first of all, this is the main machine bed. So the machine bed has all the needles. This model has 180 needles. So if you can see here, the numbers 0 will be right in the middle. So we have 90 needles on this side and 90 needles on that side. We actually have 100 needles on either side, but because of the size of the carriage, you can't really use the last 10 needles. So which is why they call it the 180 needle bed. And this is the carriage. I'm going to show you how to first fix your carriage to your machine. The first thing you want to do is place it over here. There is this little lever here that you need to pull out, and then it will lock in place. So you can't lift it off so that your carriage doesn't accidentally fall off the machine. And I'm going to attach the handle. On top of the carriage, you will find the settings for the gauge and the tension. So if you want your knitting to be tighter, you need to go down numbers. The smallest number will give you the tightest tension. So if you're using a thinner thread, you will use the lower numbers. If you want it looser, so you've got the arrows, you move towards the bigger number so that the bigger numbers are in front. Move the dial to the left. It is a little tight because I normally do not use the lower numbers. I use 4-ply and fingering yarn. So this is a standard gauge knitting machine. So for my 4-ply and fingering weight yarn, I will normally use it on 7, 8 or 9 depending on how tight I want it to be. So that is the carriage. And then you have this attachment. So you need to loosen this a little bit so that there is space for you to insert this here. And you can see these little round things here. I don't know what they're called, but this goes and they are supposed to sit on this. So you slide it in so that it sits in place and then tighten it nicely. So now the carriage is ready. Now before I move on to talk about the rest of the machine, how the carriage works, I'll show you the other accessories and talk to you about them. So these are the weights. The weights are really important. You will need minimum 2 weights for any project. Without it, you cannot start knitting. These are the transfer tools, and this is the latch tool. So this looks just like the needle, and it has a latch that opens and closes. The transfer tool looks like this. It looks like a big needle. We'll use them once we start making projects. These two are the cast on combs. Let me leave the big one down. You can't see it properly there. This is one of the cast on combs. these rods, we use these rods when you have to hang the hem or something like that. Depends on what project we're making. And the machine also came with some spare needles. I think I had 5 spare needles in mine. I already had to replace 2. Other than this, it comes with some basic tools. You have a little nozzle and bottle for oil, and a brush, and of course, very important, we have different needle pushers. So this is the standard needle pusher that I use all the time, and a brush to clean, and basic tools in case you need to open stuff and look at it. Now, before talking to you about how the carriage moves across, there is something else I need to show you. So those are the needle positions. Let me first move my camera there. So these are the needle positions, A, B, C, D and E. So position A is the non-working position. Position B is the working position. Position C and D are the upper working positions. They'll be used depending on whether you have needles put on hold or not. And position E is the hold position. You will understand this better once we start making projects. If you're using a knitting machine for the first time, you first want to check if the machine is working properly. And you want to do that before you add the yarn, because then you wouldn't know if the problem is because of the yarn or because of the carriage. So the first thing you want to do after setting your carriage is make sure all your needles are in A position, that is the non-working positions, and just pass them through. It should just move across the bed without knitting any of the needles. So this is, you've set it properly. So the next thing you want to do is move it to B position. Move a few needles to B position just to check if the machine is knitting properly or not. So if your needles are in B position, and when you pass the carriage across, it should knit. I don't know if you guys could see it in this angle, but the 4 needles that we pushed forward, they came in front and went back. So those needles were knit. And while I was talking to you about the carriage, one thing I didn't talk to you about was these 2 levers. When this lever is towards you, it is not in hold position. And when it's pushed away from you on both sides, it is on hold position. So I'll show you what that means now. So hold position is position E. I'm just gonna push a few needles in front. So now the carriage is not on hold position. So when the carriage is not on hold position and you pass it across, the needles in E position will also be knit. So everything except the needles that are in A position should be knit. So I'm just going to pass my carriage across. So the needles in hold position will knit. And once your carriage passes across, regardless of what position they were in, they will be pushed back to B position, which is the working position. So that was just to show you what happens if your needles are not on hold. If I push them to E position again, but this time put the carriage on hold position on both sides. So that means this lever is going to go back. Now if I pass the carriage across, the needles will not be knit. That's because they were in hold position. I know a lot of people have complained that the carriage is not working when they pass it across, the needles are not knitting, the stitches are not forming. So you probably have to check your lever positions and your needle positions. I'm just going to push them all back to A position and remove them from hold. And another thing you need to know about needle position is, if your needles are not in the right position, the carriage will get stuck. Now this is the non-working position, which is A position, and this is the working position, which is B position. Now if your needle was in between both like this, if you try to pass your carriage, it will not move across. The carriage will get stuck. So can you see that here? Because that needle is in the wrong position, the carriage is not able to move. If you try to force the carriage, you will break the needles. So be very, very careful about that. So I'm going to make sure all my needles are in the right position. So in this video, I was speaking to you about the basic parts of the machine, or what to do, what not to do. This will be a series, a video series of all the basic things you need to know about how to use the machine. So in the next video, I will show you how to do a basic cast on and a cast off. So that's it for today. I will see you in the next video. Bye.